Hello and welcome back to Channel England Football. My name's Gary and in today's video I'm giving my post-match analysis on England's 3 games this week. So we've had Hungary, Andorra and Poland. I'll be giving my thoughts and reactions to each game, including how I feel we've played, who stood out and where it leaves England in our World Cup qualification campaign. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe, and please leave me some comments on your thoughts on England's 3 games. This past week, England have played, as I said, Hungary, Andorra and Poland, and we're going to start with the Hungary game. Now, going back to the beginning of the week, I thought Hungary would be our most challenging game. Hungary were obviously coming back off what was really a fantastic European finals for them. Even though they didn't get through their group, they put some fantastic performances in against Portugal, France and Germany. So I thought Hungary away was going to be a very, very difficult task for England. I thought if we got through that, the group would be ours. And I thought this would be by far England's biggest challenge. However, on the night, as we all know now, England just showed their class, didn't they? England were absolutely fantastic. 4-0 winners. I don't think even the most optimistic England fans, I think I tweeted before the game actually saying England's got an amazing record in European and World Cup qualification over the past 10 to 12 years. I tweeted before the match, was that at risk? You know, we haven't lost in over 10 years in a qualification game. But England turned up on the night and they were absolutely brilliant. From start to finish, Hungary offered nothing either half. The first half was a bit slow, didn't really get much going, but obviously all 4 goals coming in the second half. Goals from Rice, Sterling, Kane and Maguire. You know, Kane again, obviously. We'll come on to Kane a little bit as well as we go on to this video. But England throughout this match were just absolutely fantastic. It was a mature performance. It showed our class. Hungary, let's be honest, probably let themselves down a bit, probably gave England a little bit too much respect. They didn't attack us at all, they didn't take any risks. It wasn't the same Hungary we saw at the Euros, which honestly was a little bit of a disappointment. I wanted a more competitive match because I felt like that's what England needed, but England completely dominated it. You know, it was a hostile atmosphere, and England from first whistle to last were absolutely brilliant. Thoroughly deserved the 3 points. It probably could have been more, couldn't it? I know it was Hungary's, I think, worst defeat in a European qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, and it could have been 5 or 6. Kane could have scored 4 or 5 that night, and it was disappointing probably that we only won 4-0 by the end of it. But England were absolutely absolutely fantastic. It left us in a really strong position in the group because at the start of that match, that was first versus second, and we went there and won comfortably, and it made us go into obviously the next game full of ease. It allowed us to change over the whole starting 11, and England right the way through were absolutely brilliant. The man of the match for me was Sterling. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Controlled the game, always a threat, running with the ball. It was brilliant. But I think the one worrying sign you could probably take from this game is Kane missing quite a few sitters. His finishing is really off. You know, it really. I know we'll come on to Kane again, like I said in a minute. But in this game, he should have easily scored 3 or 4. The Kane of past would have buried all of those. You know, quite a few sitters. Their keeper did make a few saves, but nothing really that, you know, he should have been allowed to make, really. Kane should have absolutely buried them. But 4-0 did not flatter England whatsoever, and it was a fantastic result. So this brought us nicely onto the Andorra game. So England for the Andorra game, as we know, completely changed their starting 11. So we had Johnson in goal, James, Cody, Mings, Trippier, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who moved into midfield, or I'll comment on in a minute. Henderson, Bellingham, who probably was one of the best players on the pitch. Lingard, I'll come on to Lingard as well, Saka and Bamford. A few of those things, obviously England won 4-0. It was at home. I don't think anyone expected anything less, really. As we all know, again, it was a very, very slow game. You know, we did go 1-0 up, but then didn't really push on. The goals came again in the second half. I think what the biggest thing we can take from this is that Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't work in midfield, or particularly not in that system. And with those set of players, he was really ineffective in that game. You know, against, let's be honest, quite a low-ranked team, and you probably would have expected more from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Bellingham was probably the player, you know, the best player on the pitch. Really good with the ball, so calm and composed. Him and Henderson, I think, had really good games. Everything seemed to go through Henderson as well. I think Henderson and Bellingham really did well together in that game. I think that's definitely one benefit. And Saka was Saka, he had a fantastic Saka in an England shirt. I think he did actually win the official Man of the Match award, and I think out of all the games he started, I think he's maybe started 5 or 6 games for England, and I think he's won Man of the Match in almost all of them. So it just shows you a lot about his performances in England shirt. It was absolutely brilliant, got on the score sheet. It was 2 goals for Lingard, 1 goal for Kane, and 1 goal for Saka. Thoroughly deserved. Lingard, coming on to Lingard, I think it's quite interesting really with Lingard, because potentially, and hear me out here, that could actually be Lingard's last appearance for England. And what I mean by that is he's still at Man United. The likelihood is he's not going to get a huge amount of game time now because he's staying there unless something dramatically changes or someone gets injured. I know the next international break is in October, so it's not a huge time away, but you're looking at who was left out of this squad. Rashford, for example, immediately comes back in. You've got Foden, who hasn't been included. There's obviously going to be close to Mason Greenwood. There is a high chance now that Lingard, because he hasn't moved this summer, certainly for this year, but then if any move doesn't work out future, he may have played his last game for England. And I know that sounds absolutely mad, but the way the selection works, the players that are currently missing, the chances of Lingard getting minutes at club football all appear to work against him moving forward. And as crazy as it sounds, because he was absolutely brilliant, it could have actually been Lingard's last 2 games. I hope not. This is not me saying I want it to be. I don't want it to be. I really don't. But I think looking at those, things I've just raised there in terms of who's missed out, the likelihood that Lingard's going to play any sort of minutes for Man United moving forward, it is going to be, it's going to be a brave man, Southgate, to pick Lingard above other players. So I think Lingard's place in the England squad is going to be at jeopardy for a long time, and we may well have just seen the last of Lingard in an England shirt. Kane, obviously, again with the goal. I think going on to the next game, it was 15 or 16 in a row now he's scored for England in all qualifiers. Absolutely fantastic record. Harry Kane is Harry Kane. Obviously, like I said in the last part, he didn't have the best game against Hungary. I feel like he could have scored more, but he did come off the bench in this one and did his job. Came on, scored the penalty, I believe, and got the ball rolling really in terms of goals for England. So again, another good performance from England, but thoroughly expected, and you'd have probably wanted nothing less. So going on to the Poland game then, obviously looking at where it actually led up to, you started to realise Hungary then had a surprise loss against Albania, I believe. As the group started to progress through this qualifying round, you started to realise actually, are Hungary as strong as what we originally thought? Are Poland probably a little bit stronger than we originally thought? And it probably ended up being the case. Poland, by the end of it, going away to Poland probably was the toughest game out of this round. England, though, I think, the first half was quite even. We didn't create an awful lot. Neither did Poland, really. I still feel like we were better the team. In the second half, though, I feel like we absolutely dominated it. I really do. But there's a big concern here for England. It's the fact that, one, we didn't create an awful lot of chances again. And you could argue it was the same in the Hungary game, particularly in first halves, and the same in the Andorra game. And it's something, the lack of creativity is something we really do need to look at, because it was present at the Euros as well, and it did rear its ugly head here, I'm afraid, again. And for all our possession, sometimes you can accuse England of not creating an awful lot. And I know there's certainly a few games in the Euros, particularly against Scotland and in the group stages, where we had a lot of the ball. But I think if you look back at a lot of our games from a statistical point of view, a lot of other teams seem to have more shots on target and more shots at our goal than we had at theirs. But it didn't seem to reflect the game. And it was a bit of a case for this for England. England don't, we have got this thing really creeping into our game where we are very good at keeping the ball. There's not many teams that are going to have much possession against us, but we're struggling to create chances. But don't get me wrong, England, away from home in Poland, no England fans, England deserved the win that night. They didn't get it, and I'll come on to that in a second, but I think they were by far the better team. I think throughout all 3 games, it shows that England really are a class above everybody else. And I know Polish fans may be saying, well, we got the draw, but, come on, it was a last-minute winner. Poland weren't really creating anything. England will be very, very disappointed, and the way Poland celebrated it like it was a win, I think, tells you all sorts about that game. The other thing that comes up from this, and a 1-1 result against Poland away from home is a good result. It puts us in a fantastic position in the group, and I'll come on to the overall group in a minute. But England not having enough shots on target is one thing, but then also this thing where Southgate and England, well, let's get start first. England struggling to hold on to leads in tighter games, not tight games. And I don't think England-Poland was a tight game. It was a tighter game than a usual one, and again we have let a lead slip. And it is a challenge when actually teams attack us, they tend to get the goal thereafter. And that is a real concern for England. We have got a good record in terms of keeping clean sheets. But if you look at any game where England at any point on the back foot, we tend to fold. And it's something we've really got to look at. I think Kyle Walker also has to come in here for quite a few bit of criticism. I know during the Euros he was a player who often gave the ball away, made a few sloppy passes. I don't think he was very good again that night. And I think Kyle Walker is a little bit of a weak link down that right. And I think considering the options we've got, I think he should be removed from that squad and someone else given a chance. But England not being able to hold on to leads is a real concern. It really is. Other teams will be looking at that and think, if we put a bit of pressure on England, historically now, in recent history, we will fold and concede, and it is a concern. And the other concern is that when we're leading is not putting games to bed, not going for that second. It is, again, another one of those games where you feel like it's there. If England just were brave enough, it just feels like the Euros and World Cup over again. Just that bravery aspect. If we were just that little bit braver, we could put these teams to bed. Southgate has obviously come under a lot of criticism for not making substitutes at all. It was another criticism. It's a criticism that's been quite consistent for Southgate. I'm not going to criticise him too much. Like I said, 1-1 result away from home in Poland isn't a disaster. We should have got the win, though. We should have. And I do believe it's worrying if Southgate isn't willing to make any substitutions in a game, particularly when we do start to, so it's those times when England are on the back foot that Southgate does seem a little reactive rather than proactive. And he won't make a change until it's too late. And I feel that would have been the case. I feel like if there'd have been another 10 minutes after we conceded, he might have made a change, which would have been 10 minutes too late. So I do feel like there's justified criticism of Southgate there, not for making the changes, because ultimately that's what history proves. History proves that we didn't make any changes and we conceded the goal. And it's as simple as that. And Southgate has to hold his hands up and look at that. And that's the fine margins of success in football. If it had held on, he'd have been a genius. Everyone says, we didn't disrupt what was an established team, but because we did concede, he has got to be open to criticism because there were options on the bench. England more than most other teams in the world, and probably more than any other team in the world. And I will put my neck on the line here. And I said it at the Euros. I don't think man for man England have the best starting 11 in the world. Certainly have one of the best, but not the best. But I will stick by my words that England probably have one of the strongest benches in the world, if not the strongest, and strength of depth. So, Southgate certainly can't turn to the fact that he had no options to either reassure or bolster up the defence or go for the win. So it is a valid criticism, but it was a very disappointing result for England. The win really would have set us apart. Even now, with 4 or 5 games to go, it would have been home and dry, really. We still really are, looking at what games are coming up, which I'll come on to a second. But the draw in Poland, it meant we lost our 100% record, and it just broke that little flow what we were having, and we were playing quite well. So it was a very disappointing result. But well played, Poland. Credit where credit is due. They kept going till the end. But the group now is very finely poised, particularly for those fighting for second. But I think England will get through. So just looking at then where this leaves England, I'll put the group on screen now. So England are top with 16 points. Albania have moved into second with 12, so 4 points behind. Poland are third with 11th, and Hungary, like I said, started this round of 3 games second, but now they're in fourth. Like I said, it's a really good battle there between those 3 teams for the second place. And then you've got Andorra and San Marino, bolstering up the bottom 2. But it's an interesting group. England with the 16 goal difference, 4 points lead. You do fancy England now to go on and comfortably win the group. England's next round of fixtures, as I discussed briefly at the beginning of the video, are only about 3 or 4 weeks away. So we've got the 9th and the 12th of October. So on the 9th of October away against Andorra, and then on the 12th of October we've got Hungary at home. You pretty much fancy if England win those 2 games, it is done and dusted. Depending on results in other games, we may have qualified. But if not, we've got Albania then at home. And that really would then be curtains. We've only got San Marino away Marino to play away on the 15th of November. That's really at a risk of being a bit of a damp squid, really, particularly if England are already through, even though, that game usually is even when we're not. But by the 15th of November, England's fate will be decided, whether we're through or not. So only a couple of months, and England will be confirmed, I believe, as world qualifying winners. And it's between the other guys who claim second. I fancy Poland based on this round of performances. But like I said, England are in a very strong place. There are some concerns, though, that this round of fixtures has given us. It was by far England's strongest round of fixtures in this whole qualification campaign, given the fact that probably the two other best teams we played away, Hungary and Poland. But England responded really well, but it did raise the same old concerns, with England struggling to hold on to leads, Southgate probably lacking that bravery and adventure just to go and either attack and get the second, or even reaffirm up the defence to hold on for the win, and England's just general lack ability to hold on to a lead. There are a few concerns for England, but overall, really positive international break. We've done what we've needed to do, and that's the most important thing. We've just got to take each game as it comes in. Look at the result in the context of where it is in the group. England are now in a fantastic position to qualify. Like I said, I think it's almost certain. Not many people now would bet against England. Would have to lose really 2 games against San Marino, Albania, Hungary, and Andorra, I believe, to not get through. And I can't see that happening. So yeah, England looking like they're going to go through. It's been a good international break. I'm really glad it's only a few weeks away again till the next one. Covering that one later. Please like and subscribe below. Please leave me a comment on what you think England's performances were like over this international break. Let me know your thoughts on England's weaknesses, those things I've raised. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.